Bullies mess with the wrong new kid. Seconds later, they're begging for mercy. Imagine being a bully. You walk through the halls like you own them. People move aside, whispering your name, knowing better than to stand in your way. Your friends laugh at your every word, even when it isn't funny. You decide who's in and who's out, who's safe and who's a target. Because here at Ridgeway Academy, power isn't about grades or talent. It's about fear. And fear? That's something you control. Or at least, that's what you think. Because one day a new kid walks in. Quiet, small, an easy target. Or so it seems. You and your friends don't think twice before picking on him. You push him around, make your usual threats, waiting for the same reaction you've seen 100 times before. But something's different. The new kid doesn't flinch. And before you know it, everything flips. Because you've just messed with the wrong person. And by the time the day is over, you won't just regret it. You'll be begging for mercy. Liam Park had only been at Ridgeway Academy for a few days, but it didn't take long for the bullies to notice him. He was the kind of kid who blended into the background. Small, quiet, and unassuming. The type that sat in the back of the classroom, barely making a sound. His uniform was a little too neat, his posture a little too stiff, like he was always mindful of taking up too much space. He never spoke unless spoken to, never raised his hand, never drew attention to himself. If someone passed him in the hallway, they probably wouldn't even remember his face. Liam had soft, delicate features, almost too delicate for a boy his age. His dark brown eyes, framed by long lashes, carried a certain gentleness that made him seem even smaller than he already was. His movements were careful, precise, as if he was afraid of causing a scene. He never shoved his way through crowded hallways or spoke over others. If someone bumped into him, he simply stepped aside, offering a quiet apology, even if it wasn't his fault. At lunch, he sat alone at the very edge of the cafeteria, eating in silence, his head slightly bowed. He didn't hunch over like someone used to being afraid, but there was something distant about him, like he had mastered the art of going unnoticed. And for people like Cole Bennett, that was all they needed to see. To bullies, Liam was the perfect target. No friends to defend him, no reputation to protect him, no fight in him. Or so they thought. If Ridgeway Academy had a king, it was Cole Bennett. Everyone knew his name, everyone knew what he was capable of, and no one, absolutely no one, dared to cross him. Cole wasn't just some schoolyard bully. He was the kind of person who walked into a room and immediately owned it. The way he carried himself, the lazy confidence, the arrogant smirk, the casual way he slung his backpack over one shoulder, made it clear he didn't need to prove anything. He already ruled this place. And if anyone questioned it, he made sure they regretted it. Cole wasn't the biggest guy at school, but he didn't have to be. He had an aura about him, an unshakable confidence that made others fall in line. His sandy blonde hair was always perfectly styled. His uniform always slightly disheveled in a way that somehow looked intentional. Like the rules didn't apply to him. And they didn't. Not when teachers looked the other way. Not when students laughed at his jokes out of fear rather than amusement. Not when he had a group of loyal followers, Jace, Ryan, and Leo, who backed him up at every turn. Together, they ran Ridgeway Academy like their own personal kingdom. Cole Bennett and his friends weren't just bullies, they were rulers, and in their eyes everyone else? Just subjects to control, to humiliate, to entertain. They picked their targets carefully. Never the athletes, never the loud ones, never anyone who might fight back. No, they chose the quiet ones, the loners, the ones who kept their heads down and never made trouble, the ones with no one to stand up for them. Because, to Cole and his friends, it wasn't just about power, it was about fun. One morning, a freshman named Ethan Carter made the mistake of walking through the front doors at the wrong time. He was small, scrawny, and always carried a notebook tucked under his arm, filled with sketches of superheroes, dragons, and futuristic cities. He never bothered anyone, but that day, Cole decided he was bored. "Hey, Picasso," he sneered, snatching the notebook from Ethan's hands. "What's this? A coloring book?" Ethan's face went pale. "Give it back," he mumbled, barely audible. Cole smirked and flipped through the pages, holding them up for his friends to see. "Wow, look at this masterpiece, guys. Think he'll sign one for me?" The others laughed. That was all Cole needed. He ripped out a page, then another, and another. Ethan reached for it, panic flashing in his eyes, but Cole shoved him back. By the time Ethan picked up the shredded remains of his drawings, Cole and his friends were already walking away, laughing like it was the funniest thing in the world. Then there was Maya Thompson, a sophomore who had transferred in mid-year. Maya was the type to sit at the back of the class, never speaking unless called on. She always carried a lunch from home and ate alone in the farthest corner of the cafeteria. That made her an easy target. One day, as she sat eating, Cole's group strutted past her table. Just as they passed, Trevor, one of Cole's closest friends, accidentally bumped into her. Her tray tipped. Food splattered across the table, onto her lap, onto the floor. The cafeteria erupted into laughter. Maya's face burned red as she scrambled to clean up the mess, but before she could even pick up her drink, Cole stepped in. "Whoa, careful there," he said mockingly. "You should really watch where you put your food, Thompson." His voice was fake nice, dripping with amusement. And the worst part? The cafeteria didn't go silent. No one stood up, no one helped. Because they all knew. Standing up to Cole Bennett was a mistake. And then, of course, there was Jacob Mills. Jacob was different from the others. He wasn't quiet, he wasn't weak. He had tried to fight back once. Tried. One afternoon, after weeks of Cole and his friends messing with him, shoving his books off his desk, knocking his backpack to the ground, making fun of his stutter, Jacob finally snapped. "Leave me alone," he growled, gripping the strap of his backpack so tight his knuckles turned white. Trevor raised an eyebrow. "Or what?" And just like that, it was over. By the next period, Jacob's gym locker was covered in marker. Loser, freak, weak. His uniform was gone, stolen, hidden somewhere in the school, and by the end of the day, a rumor had started that Jacob had cried in the locker room. No one knew if it was true, but it didn't matter, because the next time Cole passed Jacob in the hall, Jacob kept his head down. Cole Bennett and his friends weren't just bullies, they were professionals. They didn't just push people down, they made sure no one got back up. And up until now, no one had ever stopped them. And right now, Cole had just found his next source of amusement. His sharp blue eyes locked onto the new kid. Liam Park, moving through the cafeteria, tray in hand, small, quiet, alone, an easy target. Cole smirked, nudging Jace with his elbow. "Watch this," he muttered to his friends. It was time to remind everyone exactly who was in charge. With one swift motion, he stuck out his foot. Liam stumbled, his tray clattering to the ground. Food spilled everywhere. The cafeteria went silent. "Oops," Cole said, voice dripping with mockery. "Gotta watch where you're going, new kid." Liam stood still, his gaze shifting from the mess of spilled food on the floor to Cole. His face remained calm, unreadable. No anger, no fear, just stillness. And Cole didn't like that. He was used to a certain reaction. People either cowered and scrambled to clean up the mess, stammering out apologies they didn't owe, or they got angry, which only made it more fun to push them further. But Liam? He did neither. He just looked at him, as if Cole wasn't even worth a reaction. Cole's smirk faltered for just a second. "You got a problem?" he sneered, stepping forward. Around them, the cafeteria had gone quiet. Students had stopped mid-bite, mid-conversation. Everyone was watching. Jace, Ryan, and Leo, Cole's ever-loyal friends, stood behind him, arms crossed, smug grins plastered across their faces. They had seen this play out before. A new kid, an easy target, a public humiliation that would cement Cole's dominance once again. But something about this was off. Liam didn't react the way they expected. He didn't tremble or stammer an excuse. He didn't glare or clench his fists like he was about to fight back. He just stared. His expression was unreadable, blank yet somehow piercing, like he was seeing something deeper in Cole than anyone else ever had. Cole felt a strange, uncomfortable, prickling sensation crawl down his spine. Why wasn't this kid scared? Still, Liam said nothing. Then, slowly, without a hint of urgency, he bent down, his fingers brushing against the cold, tiled floor as he began picking up his tray. His movements were deliberate, steady, too steady. The tension in the cafeteria thickened. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. One of Cole's friends, Ryan, let out a sharp laugh, breaking the silence. "What's wrong, new kid? You scared?" More laughter followed, not from the crowd, they were too busy waiting to see what happened next, but from Cole's inner circle. Liam sighed, shaking his head as he gathered the last of his food. His voice was soft, almost tired. "No, I just don't want trouble." Cole's jaw tightened. That should have been the end of it. Most people would have taken the out, let it go, moved on. But Cole wanted a reaction. This wasn't about spilled food. This was about power. And right now, standing here in front of this quiet, unreadable kid, Cole felt like he didn't have it. Liam's calmness, his lack of fear, his refusal to play into the game, it irritated him. Cole's smirk twisted into something sharper, meaner. He wasn't going to let this kid walk away like nothing happened. And he was about to get a reaction. Just not the one he expected. Cole's fingers tightened around Liam's shoulder as he yanked him back, his grip firm, demanding. The room seemed to shrink, the air thick with anticipation. The cafeteria had gone completely silent. "I asked you a question," Cole growled, his voice low and dangerous. He was done with Liam's indifference. Done with the way this kid refused to react. The way he didn't flinch, didn't cower, didn't fight back. The way Cole expected him to. But in the very next instant, everything changed. There was no warning, no shift in the air. One moment, Cole was standing over Liam, completely in control. And the next, he was airborne? His stomach lurched as his feet left the ground. For a brief, terrifying second, he felt weightless, like the world had tilted beneath him. His mind struggled to catch up. What? How? Crash. Cole hit the ground hard, the cold tiles slamming into his back, knocking the wind clean out of him. A sharp gasp tore from his lips as pain shot through his ribs. His head spun. His limbs felt disconnected. He struggled to process what had just happened. Liam hadn't just pushed him. He had flipped him. Effortlessly. It hadn't been some clumsy shove, some desperate flailing move. No, Liam had moved with precision, his grip sure and controlled, his stance unwavering. He had taken all of Cole's weight and redirected it, sending him crashing down as if he had done it 1,000 times before. The entire cafeteria erupted. Chairs scraped back as students shot to their feet, their conversations cut off mid-sentence. Forks and spoons clattered onto trays, forgotten as wide-eyed students turned, craning their necks to get a better view. A hush spread through the room. Not silence, but something more intense. A low, growing buzz of disbelief. A current of energy passing from one student to the next, as realization set in. "Did that just happen?" someone whispered, eyes locked on Cole, who was flat on his back, gasping for air. "No way. Cole he just got..." I've never seen anyone take him down before. He flipped him over like it was nothing. A group of sophomores near the vending machine stared, their jaws slightly open. One of them gave a slow, stunned whistle, while another muttered, "That was the cleanest takedown I've ever seen." Near the lunch line, a freshman in glasses turned to his friend, his voice hushed with a mix of shock and excitement. "Did you see that? I mean, I blinked, and bam!" Cole was on the ground. His friend swallowed. "Yeah, and Liam doesn't even look out of breath." At the far end of the cafeteria, a group of juniors who usually stayed out of drama watched with rapt attention. One of them, arms crossed, murmured, "That kid? He's not normal. That was controlled, precise." A group of Cole's usual victims sat frozen at their table, their eyes flickering from Liam to Cole. For the first time, there was something else in their expressions, something unfamiliar. Hope? Because if Cole Bennett could be beaten, then maybe, just maybe, he wasn't untouchable after all. But Cole wasn't done yet. He gritted his teeth, shoving himself off the floor, his face burning with humiliation. He had ruled this school for years. No one challenged him. No one dared. And now? Every pair of eyes was on him, not with fear, but with shock. And worse, amusement. A few students had their hands clamped over their mouths, trying to hide their laughter. A junior near the back actually whispered something to his friend and smirked. Cole's stomach twisted. This wasn't just about getting back up. This was about taking back control. And so, fists clenching, jaw tightening, he turned his glare back to Liam. This wasn't over. Cole's friends, frozen. Jace, Ryan, and Leo, all of them stared, their mouths slightly open, eyes wide with shock. That wasn't supposed to happen. No one had ever put Cole on the ground before. And Liam? Liam just stood there, calm, unbothered, like flipping Cole had been nothing. Cole's chest heaved as he scrambled to his feet, rage and humiliation burning under his skin. His ears rang, but he could still hear it, the murmurs, the gasps, the disbelieving laughs. Everyone had seen it. "You little," he spat, his fists clenching so hard his knuckles turned white. His heart pounded, adrenaline surged through his veins. He didn't think. He lunged. Big mistake. Liam didn't attack. He didn't throw a punch, didn't dodge in a wild panic like most people would have. No, he simply moved, a small step to the side, a shift in weight, a slight twist of his body. And suddenly, Cole wasn't hitting anything. His fists met empty air, his balance completely off. His momentum carried him forward, straight into Liam's waiting grip. And before Cole even knew what was happening, wham! He was down, again. His arm twisted, his body pinned awkwardly against the floor. This time, the impact stole every last bit of fight from him. Pain radiated through his shoulder. His breath came in short, uneven gasps. His vision swam for a second as the whispers grew louder, spreading like wildfire through the cafeteria. Cole, the Cole Bennett, was on the floor again. The cafeteria had never been this silent. No laughter, no jeers, just shock. The cafeteria, once buzzing with murmurs and movement, felt frozen in time. Students who had been mid-bite stopped chewing, their food forgotten. Those who had been whispering held their breath, eyes locked on the scene before them. Even Cole's friends, his loyal entourage, the ones who always backed him up, who laughed at his jokes and cheered him on, stood motionless. Their confidence, gone. Their usual smug grins, nowhere to be seen. One of them, Jason, took half a step forward as if to help, then hesitated. He looked around, his gaze darting between the stunned faces of their classmates. No one was cheering for Cole. No one was rushing to his defense. Ryan, usually the loudest of them all, had his arms crossed tightly over his chest, his lips pressed into a thin line. His hands were gripping his sleeves, a nervous tick he only showed when things weren't going their way. Even Nate, the biggest of the group, who had always been the enforcer, the one who never backed down, seemed unsure. His fingers twitched at his sides, his shoulders tense. For the first time, they weren't looking at Cole for guidance. They were looking at Liam. And Liam? Liam simply let go. The moment his grip loosened, Cole's arm dropped limply to the ground, his breath ragged. But Liam didn't gloat. He didn't smirk. He didn't soak in the victory like Cole would have. Instead, he simply stepped back, rolling his shoulder once before brushing non-existent dust from his sleeve. his movements calm, deliberate, unaffected. His face unreadable. His voice steady. Cole had been expecting something. Anger, defiance, maybe even a smug remark. Something to prove that Liam had done this to humiliate him. But the way Liam stood there, completely at ease, his breathing still even, his expression unchanged, it was worse. Because it meant this wasn't a fight to him. It wasn't even a challenge. Liam's thoughts were clear. I told you, I don't want trouble. And yet, trouble kept coming to him. He had hoped that ignoring them would be enough, that walking away would keep the peace. But peace was never an option with people like Cole. And now the entire cafeteria had seen it. Seen him. He could already feel the shift, the change in the air. Eyes that had once overlooked him now watched him with something different. Something close to fear. Liam closed his eyes briefly, exhaling. This was exactly what he didn't want. Cole lay there, chest heaving, his mind racing to make sense of it all. But deep down, past the burning humiliation and the bruised ego, he realized something. He was in deep, deep trouble. The cafeteria buzzed, a low hum of shocked whispers and murmurs spreading like wildfire. Students leaned into each other, eyes darting between Cole, still sprawled on the floor, and Liam, standing tall and composed. The scene had flipped completely. Just moments ago, Cole had been the one with all the power, the one people feared, the one who dictated who got humiliated and who stayed safe. But now, everything had changed. Cole gritted his teeth, his heart slamming against his ribs. His face burned, not just from the fall, not just from the pain pulsing through his shoulder, but from the sheer humiliation. He had ruled this school through dominance, through fear, but now he was the one being looked down on. The cafeteria, filled with students who used to bow to him, now stared at him with something new. Pity. His fists clenched, his pride screamed at him to fight back. You think you're tough, he spat, shoving himself up, his breath ragged, his voice sharp with anger. You're nothing. Liam let out a slow, steady breath, his head shaking slightly as if he had already expected this. As if he had seen this exact scenario play out before. And maybe he had. It's over, Cole. His voice was calm, steady, final. Just let it go. But Cole couldn't. Not now, not here. Not in front of everyone. He had built his reputation on being untouchable. If he backed down now, if he let this new kid make a fool out of him, he would never live it down. The whispers were growing louder, the stares burning into him like flames. He could feel his friends watching, waiting. And then, he snapped. With a frustrated roar, he charged, all sense of reason drowning under his rage. Big mistake. Because this time, Liam didn't even have to try. One swift movement, a simple, controlled motion, and Cole hit the ground harder than ever. The impact was brutal. The sound of his body slamming against the cafeteria floor echoed through the room. His breath left his lungs in a sharp gasp, pain shooting up his back, his vision momentarily blurring. And then, the cafeteria erupted. Gasps, shouts, laughter, disbelief. Chairs scraped as students stood, craning their necks to see the scene unfold. This wasn't just a fight. This was a complete reversal of power. Liam stepped back, his posture relaxed, his expression unchanged. No smirk, no arrogance. Just the same calm, quiet presence as before. Like he had known all along that this would happen. And then, someone gasped. Loud, sharp, the kind of sound that sent a ripple through the crowd. Wait a second, a student whispered, their voice breaking through the noise. I know him. The cafeteria fell silent. Students turned to look at the speaker, then back at Liam. Murmurs spread like wildfire, each whisper igniting another. And that's Liam Park, the martial arts champion, the principal's son. Cole's stomach dropped. He felt the blood drain from his face. His mind raced, grasping at anything to deny what he had just heard. No way, There was no way. But the whispers only grew. He's the champion. I saw his match last year. He trained under some of the best fighters in the country. I heard he's won tournaments since he was a kid. And the worst of all? He's the principal's son. A sickening dread coiled in Cole's gut. The kid he had been bullying, the quiet, unassuming boy he had humiliated in front of the entire school, was the son of the most powerful man in Ridgeway Academy. And Cole had just made the biggest mistake of his life. Cole lay there, flat on his back, staring up at the ceiling, his breath shallow, his mind racing. How? How had this happened? Just minutes ago, he had been on top of the world. The cafeteria had been his stage, the students his audience. He had been in control. Everyone had laughed when he made his jokes, stayed quiet when he wanted silence, obeyed without question. That was the way it had always been. But now, everything had flipped. He could feel the eyes on him, hundreds of them burning into his skin like fire. But they weren't looking at him with fear. Not anymore. They weren't whispering about what Cole Bennett had done. They were whispering about Liam Park. Liam, the kid who had barely spoken since he arrived, the kid who had been invisible just yesterday, the kid who had made Cole, the most feared student in Ridgeway Academy, look completely helpless. Cole's hands clenched into fists. His chest heaved as he forced himself to sit up, but the movement only made the pain worse. His body ached from the impact. His pride? That pain was worse. Across from him, Liam stood still, staring down at him. Not with anger, not with arrogance. Just quiet disappointment. Like he had expected this. Like he had known all along that Cole would never stop until he was forced to. And that stung more than anything. Liam exhaled slowly, and then, "I told you," he said one last time, voice calm, steady, final. "I don't want trouble." And just like that, he turned away. No victory pose, no smug smirk, no gloating. Just silence. Liam bent down, grabbed his tray from the floor, and walked away. As if nothing had happened. As if Cole Bennett had never mattered. Cole swallowed hard, his throat dry. He glanced around, searching for his friends. They had always been there, standing by his side, backing him up, laughing at his jokes, cheering him on. But now, they just stood there, frozen. Not one of them stepped forward to help him up. Not one of them laughed. Not one of them even met his eyes. And the students? They weren't whispering about Cole. They were whispering about Liam. Did you see how fast he moved? He took him down like it was nothing. Didn't even break a sweat. Cole's stomach twisted. This wasn't just a bad day. This was the worst day of his life. He had spent years building his reputation, making sure everyone knew his name, making sure they feared him. And now, he had been replaced. Because from this moment on, no one would talk about Cole Bennett, the untouchable king of Ridgeway Academy. They would talk about Liam Park. And as Cole sat there, humiliated, broken, and utterly powerless, he realized he had just learned the hardest lesson of his life. But the worst part? This lesson was far from over. The cafeteria was still buzzing, the energy electric with shock, as whispers spread like wildfire. Every table, every corner, every student talking about the same thing. Did you see that? Cole got destroyed. That you can stand a chance. Liam Park, who even is he? The fear Cole had ruled with for years? Gone, shattered in a matter of seconds. And no one, not even his own friends, stood up for him. Jason, Ryan, and Nate had slipped away the moment Liam turned his back. No eye contact, no parting words, just gone, like they had never even known him. They weren't dumb, they knew what was coming. They had seen enough fights to know that this wasn't just a one-time embarrassment. It was the end of Cole's reign. And if they stuck around, they'd go down with him. Cole knew what that meant. He had been on the other side of it before, watching people drop their so-called friends the moment they became useless. Now, he was the one being left behind. The weight of it crashed down on Cole, and for the first time since hitting the floor, it wasn't just humiliation coursing through his veins. It was fear. Liam Park, the son of Principal Park, the kid Cole had just humiliated himself against in front of the entire school. Cole's stomach dropped. This wasn't just about the fight anymore. He had just attacked the son of the most powerful man in the school, and he was about to pay for it. Minutes later, Cole found himself sitting in the principal's office, a place he had been before, but never like this, never with this much at stake. The tension in the room was suffocating. Principal Park stood behind his desk, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. But Cole knew. His principal was furious. Not the loud kind of furious, not the yelling, slamming fists on desks kind. This was worse. This was cold, quiet disappointment, and it sent a chill down Cole's spine. Across from him, Liam sat with the same calm, steady expression he had worn the entire time. No anger, no smug satisfaction, just silence. And that made it even worse. Cole swallowed hard, his voice barely above a whisper. "Principal Park, Explain," Principal Park cut him off, his voice eerily controlled. Cole stiffened. "It was just a dumb fight, okay? It wasn't. You picked a fight with my son." The words hung in the air, heavy as a hammer. Cole winced. "I didn't know. Would it have mattered?" That shut him up. Would it have? Would he have backed off if he had known who Liam really was? No, not at first. Because Cole had spent years thinking he was untouchable, that he could do whatever he wanted, to whoever he wanted, with no consequences. But now he was staring those consequences in the face. Principal Park exhaled, rubbing his temples. "Cole, do you have any idea how bad this is?" His voice was sharper now, frustration breaking through. "You didn't just get into a fight, you tried to bully someone who could have seriously hurt you if he wanted to. And now, you've embarrassed yourself, your reputation is in ruins, and half the school saw it happen." Cole clenched his fists. He knew. He knew all of it. He knew he had lost. He knew that everything he had spent years building, his reputation, his control over the school, the fear he had instilled in others, was gone in an instant. And the worst part, he had done it to himself. For years, he had ruled Ridgeway Academy like his own personal kingdom. He had strutted through these halls with confidence, untouchable, knowing that no one would dare challenge him. He remembered the way students used to look at him. Not admiration, not respect. Fear. And to Cole, fear was power. He had learned that early on. The first time he shoved a kid into a locker and saw him shrink back the next day, avoiding eye contact, that was when Cole realized something. He could do whatever he wanted, and no one would stop him. Not the teachers, who looked the other way when he and his friends made another kid's life miserable. Not the students, who let it happen because they were too afraid of being next. Not even the principal, because, as long as Cole didn't cross a certain line, he always managed to talk his way out of trouble. He had spent years reinforcing that power. And now he sat in the principal's office, his body rigid, his heart hammering in his chest, his stomach twisted in knots. Because everything had flipped. The students who once feared him had laughed when he hit the ground. His friends who once stood behind him had disappeared the moment he lost. And the power he had once wielded so effortlessly was nowhere to be found. Instead, he was here. His hands were clammy, his throat was dry, his pride, the pride that had once made him untouchable, was crumbling into dust. And the worst part? The person sitting across from him, Liam Park, wasn't even gloating. Cole couldn't understand it. If things had been reversed, if Cole had been the one standing over Liam in that cafeteria, humiliated, broken, he would have made sure he never forgot it. But Liam? He just sat there, calm, unbothered, unmoved. Like Cole wasn't even a threat. Like he had never been a threat. Like he had never mattered at all. The realization stung. Cole swallowed hard, his voice barely above a whisper. His throat closed up. He had never done this before. He had never begged. Not to a teacher, not to a student, not to anyone. Because Cole Bennett didn't beg. But now he had no other choice. His pride was shattered. His power was gone. His entire reputation had just gone up in flames. And the only thing left, the only thing he could do, was plead. His voice came out weak, broken, desperate. "I can make this right," he whispered. "I'll apologize. I'll do whatever it takes, just—" His breath hitched. His fists clenched. His nails dug into his palms. And then, "Please," it was barely a sound. "Please, don't expel me." It was the first time in his life that Cole Bennett had begged. And the worst part? No one looked surprised. And Principal Park? He just shook his head. "You're lucky Liam isn't pressing charges." Cole's blood ran cold. "Charge?" Liam finally spoke, his voice as calm as ever. "I don't want to ruin his life." He met Cole's gaze. "I just want him to learn." The words hit harder than any punch ever could. Cole looked away first. Principal Park sat down, fingers drumming against the desk. "Detention for the rest of the semester and mandatory disciplinary classes. You will personally apologize to Liam." His voice dropped lower. "And if I hear so much as a whisper of you bullying another student—" He didn't need to finish. Cole got the message. This was his final chance, and if he messed up, he was gone. The next day, Ridgeway Academy felt different. Cole walked through the hallways, but the usual reactions were gone. No one moved aside for him. No one avoided his gaze. No one laughed at his jokes. The same students who had once feared him now whispered about him. I heard he was crying in the principal's office. Dude, he got wrecked, like bad. He tried to fight Liam Park? What was he thinking? Cole's jaw clenched, his ears burning with humiliation. For the first time in years, he was on the other side. Not feared, not respected, not even noticed. Just another kid. And when he walked into the cafeteria, Liam Park was already there, sitting at a table, eating his lunch, completely unbothered. The same table Cole had claimed as his own for years. Cole's chest tightened, his pride screaming at him to do something, anything, to take back control. But then, Liam's eyes lifted, and for a brief second, they met. Not mocking, not gloating, not even angry, just like he had already moved on. And Cole? Cole looked away first. For the first time in his life, he knew his reign was over. Cole Bennett had never sat in detention before. Not because he didn't deserve it, he did, many times over, but because he had always found a way out of it. A slick excuse, a well-timed smirk, or a carefully placed lie had always kept him free. Not this time. This time, there was no talking his way out, no friends to back him up, no reputation to shield him. Just him, and the consequences. For weeks, detention became his new reality. It wasn't just sitting in a silent room, staring at a clock that refused to move. No, Principal Park had made sure his punishment fit the crime. Since you have no problem making messes, you'll be the one cleaning them up. Those were the principal's words as he handed Cole a mop and a bucket. And so, after school, while his classmates walked home or met with friends, Cole was scrubbing cafeteria floors. The same floors where he had once ruined people's lunches for fun. He wiped away spills, cleaned up crushed food, picked up the very trays he used to knock out of people's hands. The janitors didn't say much to him, but their eyes said everything. You're finally getting what you deserve. For the first time, Cole felt small. But he didn't argue. He didn't complain. Because deep down, he knew he had earned this. If he thought cleaning was bad, this was worse. Principal Park made a list, a long list of every student Cole had bullied over the years. And one by one, he had to face them. Not just some half-hearted sorry thrown over his shoulder. No, A real apology. Face to face. Cole had never realized just how many people he had hurt. There was Ethan, the quiet kid who had to switch lunch tables because Cole and his friends wouldn't stop messing with him. There was Julia, who had cried after he spread a rumor about her. There was Anthony, whose favorite jacket had been stolen and tossed into the mud because Cole thought it was funny. And then there were the ones who didn't even look at him, who just walked away. And that hurt the most, because it made him realize some wounds don't heal with just words. But still, he kept going, because for the first time, he wanted to make things right. Cole had always been surrounded by people, not friends, exactly, but followers, people who wanted to be on his good side, who laughed when he laughed, who helped him push others down just to avoid being next. Now, when he walked down the halls, there was no one beside him. His old friends had abandoned him. Not that he could blame them. They were just like him, afraid of looking weak, afraid of consequences, afraid of what would happen if the tables turned. And now that they ran. It was lonely, but maybe it was what he needed. Because without the noise, without the pressure to be that guy, he had time to think. And the more he thought, the more he hated who he had been. It happened during lunch. Cole had been sitting alone for days. No one invited him to sit with them. No one acknowledged him. Until one person did. Liam. He didn't say much, just sat down across from him, eating his food like nothing was out of the ordinary. Cole didn't know what to say. After everything, why was Liam sitting with him? And then it hit him. Liam didn't care about revenge. He wasn't here to rub anything in. He was just there. Not as an enemy, not as a savior, just as another student. And that was the moment Cole realized what real strength looked like. It wasn't about power. It wasn't about fear. It was about character. And for the first time in his life, Cole wanted to have that kind of strength too. When detention ended, Cole expected things to go back to normal. They didn't. People still didn't trust him. Some never would. But that was okay, because for once he wasn't looking for people to fear him. He was just trying to be better. It wasn't easy. Every time he walked past someone he had bullied, there was a flicker of doubt in their eyes. And he knew he had to prove himself. Not with words, not with apologies, but with actions. So he started small, helping pick up dropped books instead of kicking them away, standing up for the kids who had no one to stand up for them, not joining in when others started making fun of someone. And at first people were skeptical. They whispered, they watched, but over time, they stopped looking at him like a bully and started looking at him like something else. Not a hero, not a villain, just a kid who had finally learned his lesson. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Some people think power comes from fear. That if you push people around, it makes you strong. That if others bow their heads, avoid your gaze, or whisper your name in hushed voices, it means you've won. But real strength, it doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need fear. It doesn't need to prove itself. Because true strength isn't about how many people you can knock down. It's about how many you can lift up. It's about knowing when to fight and when to walk away. And when the moment comes, real strength speaks for itself. Liam Park never wanted trouble. He never asked for a fight. He never raised his voice, never demanded attention, never tried to prove himself to anyone. But when the time came, when the line was crossed, he didn't hesitate. Because some lessons in life, they aren't taught with words. They're taught with actions. So next time, think twice before picking on someone just because you can. Because power can disappear in an instant. And the people you think are weak, they might be stronger than you ever imagined. Because you never know who they really are. And when you finally realize the truth, it might already be too late. Want more stories like this? Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and stay tuned, because you never know when the next lesson will come. And trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.